Since moving into this fixer-upper, we've renovated just about every space in the house except my son's room. And with a baby on the way, it was time. Okay, here we are in the bedroom. I've got my plans. Okay, so this space in the middle is wide enough to fit a queen bed right here. I'm going to be, since I'm using this as a nursery, I'll stick my crib right there so you can use it for both. These right here, these 3 boxes are going to be shelves that face toward the bed on both sides. And then on the bottom right here, they're going to face out just because the bed's going to be in the way. You wouldn't be able to open the doors unless they're facing out towards the room. And then this right here is going to be a bookshelf that spans the length across the top of the bed. And then these corner parts are just going to be dead space. So it's going to be really pretty though. This right here is ductwork, so we can't get rid of it. But I centered the bed so that once I'm all done, this will look the same size as this one. Okay, so let me show you how I cut my plywood. I've got a piece of insulation foam, I think it's 2-inch under here, to lift it off the ground, but also just so that if I cut through, I'm not going to damage any sidewalk or concrete or whatever it is. This is a straight edge right here, a guide. Then I've got my clamps, my measuring tape, and my circular saw. So I'm going to be cutting a strip here that's 12.5 inches wide. If I were to just make a mark at 12.5 inches, then let's see. Here's my 12.5 inch mark right here from the factory edge, okay? If I were to just line this up right here and cut it, I would be 1.5 inches short because my blade isn't on the very edge of this. This is going to be running along the edge of this, and the distance, let's see, between the blade and my guide, I don't know if you can see that, is 1.5 inches. Okay, so when I'm positioning my guide, I'm going to make another mark that's 1.5 inches beyond 12.5, which puts me at 14. And then I'm going to go on the other end, put another one at 14. And now I can line up my straight edge on those 14-inch marks. Oh. I need to cut this foam board a little smaller than my plywood. Put it precisely where you want it, clamp it down. On the other side, right at the 14-inch mark. And now I can take my saw. Make sure you're going the right direction. I don't want to be using this edge. Now let's measure this. See if I hit it right on the 12.5 mark. 12.5 on the money. right, so I've got all of my boards cut and we are going to assemble. I'm just going to use some glue and screws. If I wanted to hide my screws, I would use pocket holes. But I'm just going to fill them afterwards, so I'm not going to worry about that. All right, this is as far as we got today. Come on, Dolly, so I forget to build my top shelf right here. Okay, notice the power is off. You can use an electrical tester. Okay, so let me explain this to you. This is called an old work box. So it has the nails. This means that before, like when they build a new house, before they put any drywall on, they go in and do the electrical, and they can just shoot these in through the back with nails, okay? When we already have drywall on, I think these are the new work. Yeah, these are new work, which means it's like a new house, okay? This one is an old work. We can't get in with a nail with a gun to shoot these in. So what they do is that you stick this in the old work, the work that's already been done, and then you screw in this screw, and it has a tab that lifts and it pinches it in between the drywall. So there's different kinds of boxes you get for that purpose. They also have these little tabs. We're gonna knock out, well, let's knock out the middle one. The middle one, whoopsies. Let's do it with this. So that we can put our wire through there from the top. And then we also need to put one, we actually have two wires, so we'll knock out two of these. We have the existing wire that's coming in from the top, and then I'm going to drop another one down as well. And then it has one at the bottom that we need to knock out as well. So, before I put this in, I'm going to add our bottom wires down through this hole.
Mama?
Yes?
Let's put this back together. Do the whole thing.
All right, go put it downstairs and I'll help you later. I don't know if we can fix it though. So we've got coming in from the bottom. Stick it in there. So let me cut this out a little further. Okay, now we can tighten these up, and that tab is going to lift. There we go. Now it's nice and tight in there. We are ready to put this guy back through. Okay, and now we are going to go up into the attic, drill a hole through the top plate of the wall, and then shove this wire. Ooh, this is our 14 gauge wire. We're going to shove down, and then we're going to run it to the other side. All right, I'm in the attic. This is the wall plate. It's already got a hole drilled in. This is the existing wire that's going down to the switch. And then, if you notice, that is the fan that it's going to right there. So, I'm not going to mess with this hole. I'm just going to drill another one right next to it, and then we can drop the new wire down into that. Okay, here is our wire. Okay, so there's my cord that I just put in, my wire. Now I want to carry it all the way over here. This here is my wall plate. This right here is the ducting, that little pop out. that little corner drywall thing is covering. So I need to go downstairs and figure out how far from the edge of that I want my electrical to go. Okay, so right here is this ducting that's covered up. From the edge of this, my exact placement is not necessary. I just want a general idea. So if I want it to come out somewhere in the middle, actually let's find out where my studs are so I can go in between studs. Looks good. Okay. So I need to have it come out somewhere in between here. So that is roughly 38 inches. So now we can go up and measure 38 inches over and drill our hole and drop the other end of that wire down. So I went in between studs to take this out. The reason why I went so far is because when I'm ready to put this back in, I've got something right here to screw it into. Okay, let's grab our wire. All right, we're grabbing the other end of this wire. And gotta be careful to step on rafters and not the drywall because I will fall right through the ceiling. Okay, and now we're gonna go about 38 inches over. All right, so the wire is traveling from there all the way to here. We're gonna shove it down. Okay, now let's see if we can find, oh, look at that. Here's our wire, yay. So, we can shove that through here. Perfect. Now let's see if we can find the other one. There's our wire. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Okay, so I got this all hooked up. It was a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. But I did get it to work, and I didn't, you know, no sparks were flying or anything, so that's good. But now we have a second switch that runs to this wire, which we will hook up to our light probably tomorrow when we build our little middle shelf. So let's get this guy hooked up. Okay, so the reason why I did this little extra space in here is because I'm gonna have lights that are coming from the bottom of this thing. So this thing is upside down currently. My lights come with a little template. So I'm gonna place them where I want them. And then we'll trace them and cut them around. And then I'll be able to have a hole for my lights to go into. Okay, so I've got this big cabinet that I'm going to try and hoist up here by myself. So to aid me, I have a scrap piece of wood that I'm going to use as a ledge for it to sit on. And I think I want it to come down just a hair. I've already marked where my studs are so I can know where to screw. So we are going to just make sure it's level. Okay, I've also marked my studs up here so that when I hoist it up, hopefully my backing doesn't cover those marks. If they do, then I'll have to, let's just mark them a little down lower just in case.
Now to connect the lights, first I used an electrical tester pen to make sure the wire I ran from the attic has power. Green light means we're good to go. Then I turned the power back off so it's safe to work. The recessed lights I'm using come with their own junction boxes, which is super handy. I also need to run power to the light on the right, so I added a small length of 14 gauge wire. I used a utility knife to remove a few inches of plastic sheathing from both ends, then stripped about an inch of insulation off the black and white wires. In the junction box on the left, I connected the wire from the attic, the light wiring, and the wire going over to the other light. Black goes to black, white to white, and ground to ground, securing everything with wire nuts, then closing up the junction box. At the junction box for the light on the right, I hooked up the other end of the 14 gauge wire the same way. Now the lights just plug into the box and pop into the holes I cut earlier.
This works!
I built a face frame for the front of the center section. Using a pocket hole jig, I drilled 2 pocket holes at both ends of my 3 vertical pieces. Then I attached those pieces between the top and bottom with wood glue and screws. Once the face frame was constructed, I attached it to the front of my headboard with storage. I closed up the side openings with more 3/4 inch plywood.
All right, here we go. All of that trim work makes such a huge difference in making it look finished. So now that we've got most of the building done, I'm gonna do a little bit more trim work still, just for decorative purposes. But otherwise, we just have to caulk and Bondo and do all the filling and prepping for paint.
I created a pair of curved corner trim pieces for the center shelf by using scrap 3/4 inch plywood and a saw blade to trace an arch. I cut the first curve with my jigsaw and used it as a template to make a second identical piece. After cutting and sanding both, I used my pocket hole jig to add pocket holes on the back. A little wood glue, a few screws, and they were in. To look like a true built-in, trim is the secret. Adding crown molding at the top, baseboard at the bottom, and a custom curved trim around the center shelf helps the piece blend into the room like it's always been there. With all the trim in place, the last step before paint was caulking. I ran a bead of caulk along every seam, corner, and edge, anywhere trim met the wall or another surface. This is a must for getting that clean, professional finish.
I haven't decided if I'm going to add trim to this after the fact, but for now we are going to start priming. This primer that I'm using is called Bin. It's all covered in primer, but it's the original. It's like a shellac based primer, and I always use this on wood because it is it's a stain blocking primer, a really good one. And so if there are any tannins in the wood that seep through the primer, this will block all of those. So I use this for any painted wood project. Okay, so whenever you put primer on top of raw wood, even plywood, it makes it a really rough surface. If you were to try to paint directly on top of that, then you just wouldn't have a smooth looking finish, like a really nice professional looking finish. So I'm gonna go through everything and sand everything down. I actually already did that to this section before I painted my samples on it. And then you also want, after everything is sanded, you won't be able to tell necessarily, but there'll be a lot of paint dust on there. So you have to give it a good thorough wipe down, and then you can start spraying. Okay, so I just put up my first panel of wallpaper. This wallpaper is from Next Wall. I got it from Amazon, and it's a peel and stick. Not all wallpaper is created equal. Some of it is really stretchy, and so you have a hard time matching up seams and all that. And also peel and stick sometimes can be finicky, but I am really happy with this brand. I really love this brand because it is easy to pull off the wall and reposition if you need to. So what I like to do, you cannot count on your walls to be straight. Don't ever start in a corner when you wallpaper because your corner is like this. So I always get my laser level, make sure that I have a vertical line, and then you're going to want to cut a few inches above and a few inches below the panel that you want to do so that you have some room to work with. Well, you're actually going to not cut a few inches. You have to make sure you line up the pattern first and then cut a few inches above and a few inches below. So let's do this. So when I'm lining up my seams, I want to do my sides first to make sure that I'm running level. Okay, so when I get my panel in, I want to make sure that I line this up because I know that this is perfectly level. So I'm going to line up the side first, and then I like to smooth it out with my hands, which I haven't lined this up yet. I like to smooth it out with my hands first, just so I can get it, most of the air bubbles out, and then reposition it as I go down. Okay, so this is all lined up. And now I got my handy dandy little wallpaper tool. And I can go through and press those seams down. Scrape any, you'll find some air bubbles in here occasionally. This just helps push them out and push them out to the side. And then you can make these seams nice and tight and grab your knife. Very sharp, brand new blade on here.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you've got a perfect seam right there. We've also got an outlet right here. Okay, so I got the wallpaper all up. I am so excited about it. It looks so good. One thing that I would say is that because of this particular pattern, if I didn't have it exactly straight and square, like the whole panel, then it was very obvious when these didn't meet up with the next side just because of how this pattern is. So I had to pull out my my laser level more than one time. I couldn't just keep going off of the last level, otherwise it would be wonky. But I do love how it turned out. I like this quality of wallpaper, the peel and stick. This was a lot easier than some peel and stick that I've done before. But yeah, love it. Can't wait to show you the rest.
I am so happy with how this storage headboard turned out. It's a cozy functional spot for Malcolm's crib.